Welcome to WRM, Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, the Edward Jones, the founder and CEO of Pro Destiny Coaching and Associates. My motto, work relationships work for those who work on them. My guest is Mr. Jenny Jones. He's CEO of JSG Investments, Win-Win Investment, Real Estate, My Investment Exit, a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, one of the greatest fraternities on this earth, and a military veteran. He is here today to share his thoughts and experiences that will be beneficial to you. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you, Mr. Edward Jones, for having me here on your show today. I look forward to it. Thank you.
And also, thank you for your service.
I was 18, man. I didn't know what I was getting into, man. It was a lot. Came with that, though.
But we appreciate it. And it's not just for Veterans Day, but for all the time. So we really appreciate that. Now, Jenny, when I looked at your information, I was so impressed. And that introduction is just the tip of the iceberg of all the things you do to help and serve people. But before we get into that one, how did it all begin? Talk about your background, people in your life that helped influence you, or maybe events that helped get you started. So starting back as maybe as a child, what kind of things influenced you and helped steer your direction?
Do I call you Edward or do I call you Mr. Jones? I mean, because I know you're my fraternity brother, so I don't know.
Just say Edward. That's
I call you Brother Jones, right?
Edward is good.
No, that's a great question, Ed. I think a lot of us are shaped by some of the things that happen in our childhood. It becomes the very fabric of who you are as you grow up and you develop and things start to change you. I grew up really poor. I'm no different. I didn't grow up like Tyler Perry poor, right? he was sleeping in the back of a car or whatever, but I was there almost a couple of times, and those things shape you, right? Those things kind of give you a drive that as a single mom raising 3 kids, my mom raised me, my brother, and my sister in California. It was tough. And all I could think about on those nights where I almost missed a meal, right? I may have gotten a sandwich, but that was a meal. I always thought to myself, I never really want to be in this situation when I get older. I never want my kids to have to go through this. Those things kind of started to shape me and drive me. And that's kind of where it kind of started. You kind of want to know, it's like, man, you got your hands here, you're doing that. And there's a reason for all of that. And we'll elude up to that. But I just kind of wanted to let you know, hey, I grew up pretty poor, man. It was tough for us, man. It was really tough because my mom and dad separated at a young age, right? When your parents got married and they were young, they didn't really know what they were doing, right? And so they went their ways, and my mom was like, fine, I'm taking my babies with me, right? And we struggle a lot, and that is the very fabric of my drive. It's my mama, because she hustled for us, man. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's interesting, because the one thing that I find with a lot of my guests is they have had that separation at a young age, and it definitely impacted them in certain ways. But I look at, when you grow up poor, you don't have all those words. I remember when I was going through my MBA program, that all these terms for finance that I had no idea were even there. And so when you just think about where your next meal is coming from. And so as you grew up, what was maybe a turning point that said, as a child, I don't want to be this way anymore? But what did you grab a hold of at that early age that kind of helped move you forward?
My uncle stepped in. My late uncle, French Strutter, stepped in, and him and my aunt, which is my mom's sister, they tried to model in front of us what a couple would look like, a healthy relationship, a healthy married relationship would look like. And
Okay.
I knew there's things that I grew up with. And I said, I don't want to be like that. I mean, I've been married faithfully to my wife for 25 years now. I have 2 sons, and I never wanted to not be around for them to teach them some of the things that I was never taught. Right. And I don't want to fast forward too soon because I don't know how long this is going to go. But what shaped a lot of what drove me, I think there was a turning point, and I will share this.
Okay.
I was in the, and I haven't shared this with, I don't think I've shared this with anybody publicly. So you're getting a firsthand benefit of this, Mr. Jones, but no. So when I was in the military, right, I was a paratrooper, so I was airborne, right. So we jumped out of airplanes for a living. That's what we did. And we were in a rapid deployment unit, meaning that if we were on call, we had to deploy anywhere in the world in 18 hours or less.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as soon as a conflict went down, it was like, hey, call in the 82nd. We were gone, and we had beepers then, right? You got your beep, and it was like, hey, that's it. No questions asked, whatever you was doing. People show up drunk or whatever, they was just out, but you had to, you had to be cognizant, because when you were on call, you had to be ready and be prepared for anything. So the preparedness, the discipline of the military taught me a discipline in life, right? And my boys now say, Dad, we're so glad you were hard on us, because we're in college now. We see a lot of these kids that are not disciplined. I didn't know that I was modeling that before them, right? Those are just things you pick up. And one of the turning points was being in Desert Storm, right? We were in Desert Storm. We were the first ones in the country, right? Desert Storm was when we invaded Kuwait and Saddam Hussein. That's going back to the late 80s, early 90s. And what shaped me then was I was over there so long. I was over there almost a year. I want to say it was a year, 18 months or something like that. I can't remember. I thought I was going to die.
Wow.
I literally, because I didn't think that I would see land again. And here's the reason why. And you're like, well, how do you just, we were the first ones in the country, the first ones in the country. So what the news was saying, or what the talk was in the media was, we 82nd, because we were rapid deployment, because we were so many troops, we could hit you, we could overwhelm you with just the sheer amount of soldiers we could drop on the ground at any one time, right? We can do a pass and you'll see the whole sky just light up with parachutes. The problem with that is we were riflemen at the time. So, I was doing inventory management, supplying bullets, beans, or whatever. But in the war, everybody's a rifleman, right? And so they told us, we were dubbed the speed bumps for Saddam's military. I forget the something guard. I can't even remember their name. We were dubbed speed bumps, meaning that we were going to slow them down enough until the heavy mechanized, our tanks and all that, made it across. Because when the tanks come over on the water, right? The Navy and everybody else bring in the tanks. Or when you're going to set up an offensive pursuit, you're going to want to go in with a lot of heavy artillery, but you want to have as less casualties as possible. So you want to get before you start something, you want to make sure you have your mechanized or your heavy artillery and all that on the ground first. Well, none of those, they couldn't get there as fast as we can get there. So essentially, I really actually thought I was going to die. And I started dreaming and thinking about all the things that I wanted to do. And I kept saying, if I ever have an opportunity to do those, I will pursue those once I get back and land. And that started the journey. So that was more of a turning point, right? I guess if you want to make a major turning, that was one of them. It was another major one, but that was the first one. And I'll probably talk about the other one later on. But does that help you with your answer? Or
it really does. The one thing I want to do is, just because that definitely shows that significant emotional experience are always life-changing, especially when you think you're going to lose your life.
Oh, for sure.
But the thing I think about is, I want to go back a little bit into growing up, and that is having the role models, having people to help guide you, which is so important.
Mhm.
So did you decide to go to the military because that was your best option? Because as you know, I used to work with the Alpha Academy with young
Mhm.
men,
Right.
and some of them go to college, some of them don't.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking that looking at options for them, and a lot of them have the background similar to what yours was. So
Mhm.
at that point, you live that. So what advice would you give those young men? Like, and you've been to the Alpha Academy, so you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. So give me a little bit there so we can help those parents who are working with those kids.
Yeah, I think what happened was I was supposed to go to Grambling, right? I was supposed to go on a college scholarship to Grambling to play
Okay,
football. But
okay, okay.
I didn't have the grades. I
Mhm.
remember Eddie Robinson came downtown San Francisco. He met with a couple of his recruits and stuff
Okay.
like that. And they asked me, "Hey, how's the grades going?" I was like, "Oh man, grades are going good." Man, my grades was bad. I was just thought I was just going to get by, right? And that was one of the opportunities that I missed out on. I was supposed to go play strong safety for Grambling, and I missed that opportunity. And back in it was real. I was growing up in Oakland at this time, and just around that time was when the crack epidemic was starting to happen, probably around late 80s, probably around 84, 5, 6, something like that. And I graduated from high school in 86. And I had two options, right? Because I was working at a gas station, right? I was working on a full service island, right? You do what you got to do, right? Until you can do what you want to do, right? And
Right.
so I was working full time. I said, man, this is not what I want to do. College was not an option because I didn't have any money, right? And my mom didn't know anything about college because, well, she didn't go to college, right? And so no one could direct me, no one can guide me. I had an English teacher, Miss Thompson, kept telling me, you are special. You have a brilliant mind. You need to try to get to college. And I was like, man, I don't know the first thing how I'm gonna get to college. Here comes a recruiter saying, hey, we can pay for college. I was like, okay, that sounds good. They said, we're going to pay you and we're going to pay for you to go to college. And then I'll never forget him as a recruiter. Chambly was his name, Chambly. And he says, hey, and you know what'll separate you, what'll make you the top of the top, the elitists of the military. I was like, what is that? He said, you can go airborne and they're going to give you an extra $150 a month. I was like, man, let's do this. I'm 18. I'm like, man, let's do this airborne thing. I don't know what it is, but let's do it. Because for one, I want to make the extra $150 a month. This is me, 18, right? I want to make the extra $150 a month. But not only that, I want to be elite. I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to wear a beret, right? Back then, only a couple of people wore berets. Now everybody wear them. He says, you're going to wear a burgundy beret. You're going to wear jump boots with a uniform. You're just going to be different. Man, I get to jump school, man. I was like, man, what did I sign up for? They had me jumping out of airplanes. I was like, what is going on? So it's another story with that too, but we don't have that kind of time.
Well,
but
good. No,
yeah,
but
so no, that was it. Yeah, go ahead.
that's great background there. So now let's go back to the being in the war and contemplating if I ever get out of this, I'm gonna do whatever. Let's start back there.
Yeah, no, so when you have a lot of time alone, right, and you're out and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So when you're deployed, you don't know if you're even going to make it tomorrow, right? And this is, nowadays the military, now we have a lot of intelligence, right? We have drones, we have strike drones, we have a lot of different things that'll kind of, hey, put out the fire or let you know, hey, this is getting ready to go down. Back then, we didn't. It was like, hey, you got a phone call, it was going down, right? Um, so a lot of thought goes into your head. And I remember a classroom, I wish I could remember the students and the teacher and all that, they adopted me, right? So it was adopt a soldier, right? So all these different classrooms and all these teachers was going around adopting soldiers, sending them stuff, right? Sending me ramen noodles and Oreos, and I would get these goodie packs. The mail truck would show up, and I started thinking, right? I always saw MASH on TV. I never really knew what that was like, but I started thinking, I was like, man, tomorrow could be my last day. Tomorrow could be my last day. And I'm much more wiser now, for my faith and stuff, but I didn't know any of that. And those are the types of thoughts. And I says, man, there's so much more I want to do. There's so much more I want to accomplish in my life. I want to have a family. And those are the thoughts. And I says, you know what? If I get out of this, I'm just going to start trying to live my life and doing the things that I want to do. And that's so when you now look at my LinkedIn or people saying, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, I'm really just trying to do everything that I wanted to do and things that I enjoy doing. And that's that. I'm just living my life right now. So, yeah.
Right. So you so you got out of the military and then you went to college?
Right. So I got out of the military and I started going to college at night, right? Because the military paid for all of my college, right? I didn't go to big fancy names. I just knew I wanted to get college and I wanted to start getting my academia behind me. And the GI Bill started writing these checks for me to go to college. And that's how I picked up all these degrees. Wasn't big name. I didn't go to big name colleges like you went to, but I was still able to.
That's not the important thing.
That's not the important thing. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Not big name doesn't matter. The main thing, it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know. And so you can get whatever, people can get great degrees from different places, but they don't do anything with it. You've done a lot with yours. And the thing that I look at is for that person who had a life like yours, who thinks, I can't make it. And because I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go to this place, I can't make it.
Right.
I look at you and I say that wherever he went, who cares where he went? Look at what he's doing today. So don't be ashamed of that. So where did you go to college to gain the knowledge? Because it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know, and you were doing with what you know. So where did you go? So somebody may want to follow that path.
Well, so what happened, and that brings up an interesting point, because it's like, okay, so how did you end up here? And so when I got out of the military, I had a lot of experience, right? I was in inventory management and did some accounting and some bookkeeping and things of that nature. And those are the things, I had a passion for that. Even in high school, we was in accounting. I said, hey, I like this credit and debit thing. And because it became a puzzle and figuring things out. And so when I got in the military, they said, hey, we're going to put you in inventory management. You got to count bullets. You got to count beans. You got to count meals, right? You got to make sure that people are supplied with those and things like that. And just inventory management and logistics. And so when I got out, right, I came to California, right? That's where I went in the military. They always put you out where you came in. I said, hey, you're going back to where you came in. So they put me back in Oakland, right? And California is high. We already know that, right? And I had to get a job, but all the jobs are saying, well, I mean, you know accounting, but you don't have any academia in accounting. They said usually accountants have training. I'm like, I have training. I was in the military 10 years. They're like, yeah, but no. I'm like, no, listen. And then so what happened was, but I had a passion for computers as well. And so I took computer gigs because they were easier to get because you didn't really have to have a degree. You just had to have a couple of certifications. But my ultimate path was accounting, because my love for accounting, but the computer science and putting computers together and all that. I did tech support in the day, and at night I went to school for accounting. So I knew computers because working with them and working in inventory management, I got into computers, started learning how to repair them and all of that. And so I was going to school at night as an accountant. And but again, my whole goal going in with the beret, jumping out of airplanes, was to get money for college. And that was my path. So when I got that, and I started going to school for accounting at night, and went to University of Phoenix, right? But I went to a couple other schools and got some certifications and stuff like that. And all of it was preparing me, and I didn't know what it was preparing me for until now. And then I went to Golden Gate University, got a master's in computer science, with in database management. And at the same time, after that, I went to Keller Graduate School of Management and ended up getting a dual master's in accounting and financial management. So academia was very important, but it was more for me to survive and it was more for me to complete some personal goals of mine. But I never knew what it was shaping me to be. I just knew I wanted to go to college and get some background behind me. And one of the things that was different as I wrap this up is I had more experience than a lot of people or a lot of students there already, because I had already seen a war. I had been in the military 10 years already. So when I was coming in, I was sitting in with students, I was the leader in some of these cohorts that they created or some of the breakout groups because I had the most experience, right? And so I would always lead the presentations and I would do the handoffs and I was teaching people how to do the handoffs. You thank the other person and all that. And so a lot of my leadership came from there, and that kind of led me into supervisory, and I just learned what I wanted to do. And then I says, this is what I like to do, is when I can kind of work and kind of control my own destiny. And we'll probably circle back there, but that's kind of that shaped it. That put everything in perspective for me.
So what would you consider? You said you became a leader. So what would you say is your leadership style?
My leadership style is motivation by education. And what do I mean by that, right? Because I am military bred, right? I think people are motivated when they feel empowered, when they feel appreciated. Being a supervisor, I always wanted to make sure that everybody knew the next person's job, right? I never wanted to be where if this person doesn't show up, God forbid, doesn't show up Monday, we can't function as a unit. And so I always cross-trained, and they loved it. The staff loved it. It says, man, you're teaching me that person's job. I was like, yeah, because again, when they start laying off people, right? Because layoffs happen through every economic cycle, every 5 to 7 years. It's one thing to know accounts receivable. It's another thing to know accounts receivable and accounts payable, right? And I always wanted my staff. So when they came to bring the hammer down and says, hey, we got to cut back, right? Our quarterly earnings are come up, we got to cut back. They always say, well, who do you want to let go or whatever? Everybody's on the same playing field. I can't just let go of the person in accounts payable because they know accounts receivable as well. Now, if I had a staff of 6 or 7 and only one person knew accounts payable, but everybody else knew everything else, that would probably be likely the person that would have to go. Does that make sense? I mean, from economically and
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I always wanted to make sure everybody was on the same playing field. So when they came to me, or they went to another department head, they was like, well, Jenny, everybody under his leadership is dually trained. You, on the other hand, Mr. Other Supervisor, only 2-3 people are trained on yours. So we're going to take the staff from your person. I protected my staff to make sure that they had their skills up. And not only that, if they were to get let go, then they would have the proper skills to get picked back up again. And I'd always give them a gleaming reference. I was like, man, I hated to let the person go. And so it always kind of worked out that way. But that's my leadership style is very disciplined. I work hard. I play hard. Would take staff out. We would do things. We'd go bowling or just whatever. But they would run through a brick wall for me because I would run through a brick wall for my sergeant or the people that was placed over me in the military. I always feel that if your staff will run through a brick wall for you, they'll take a bullet for you. That's the way you want your staff, and you take care of them. It's just, hey, I'm gonna protect my staff. No, we're not doing that. I'll fall on the sword for my staff, and that's my style.
Absolutely. So you're disciplined and compassionate at the same time.
Yes.
Now, when I listen to you and look at your information, I'm saying, Mr. Jenny Jones says success. The thing that I think about, but everything, there's always those rough spots. So what's the toughest situation you faced and how did you deal with it?
Well, the toughest situation I faced by far is when I was complaining my back hurting. My wife was like, you need to go to the doctor, right? And all the men out there, if your wife tell you got to go to the doctor, just go to the doctor, right? And because we don't like going to the doctor, right? We're We're strong. We're men. It's like, I don't want to go to the doctor, whatever it's going to be. And I went to the doctor because my back kept hurting. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. It just keep hurting. I went there. I went to the doctor. And doctor's like, take 2 of these, call me in the morning. I'm like, I don't know, doc. I mean, this is different this time. Right. So fast forward, I said, I want this. I want that. I want a CT. I want a, EKG. I want the works. Mm-hmm. So he says, hey, we're going to recommend you to a urologist. I was like, okay. They said, yeah, just go there, see what she's got to say, whatever. I went there. She looked at my record. She says, hey, what are you doing? She said, what are you doing in 2 weeks? I was like, well, I'm on my last semester of college, right? I was another semester of, I was getting my dual master's back then. And I said, hopefully I'm trying to get through and, get through my finals and all that. And I'll be graduating. I'll be walking across the stage. And she's like, no, you're not. I was like, well, what do you mean I'm not? She's like, well, you're going to be in surgery. I was like, surgery? What? I mean, I just showed up. Mm-hmm. She's like, she says, you may have cancer. I was like, wait, so I just came in here, cancer? So she said, yes, you may have cancer on your kidney. I was like, wait, what? That is when life slowed down. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? And she says, someone at your age should not have cancer, or their kidney should not look like this. Do you drink? I said, no, don't drink. Do you smoke? Do you do all that? Nope. Never have. No, wasn't my interest. And she says, yeah, we need to get you in for cancer. So she says, this is what we'll do. She says, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little piece of, it's on the outside of your kidney. We're going to go in. She says, take us about 2 hours. We're going to go in and we're going to cut the piece off of the kidney and you'll be fine because you have 2 kidneys, right? I was like, okay. And my wife was like, what? Surgery is one thing. Right. So we get to say you'll be there 2 hours. So it's like, all right. Fast forward. I don't want to take too much time. Fast forward. We get there. And they're wheeling me in, you got the little smock on your head and they're wheeling you in. It's like, hey, how's everything going? They start shooting you up. Next thing you know, you're out. So they wake me up like 8-9 hours later. I wake up and my wife's over me, right? And she's like, got these tears in her eyes. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's wrong? She says, babe, I said, am I alive? Right. I'm like, am I alive? I'm asking her, hey, am I alive? And she says, you're alive. I said, all right, cool. Like, thank you. Right. And then she says, but they took your entire kidney. Ooh. I was like, what? She said, your entire kidney is gone. And long story short was what they went in to have a small procedure. It was starting to spread like a spider web around the kidney. And they ended up having to take the entire kidney. So I have 1 kidney. And again, I'm in the hospital bed. Again, what is it that I have not achieved yet? Right. And that's what put the juice. Because once I got married and settled down, I had to cut back on trying to be very entrepreneurial because I had to start taking care of a family and all that. Because I started a video delivery business. I was the first Netflix back in 92. I was delivering videos. That's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day. But I was delivering VHS tapes back in 92. That's the vision that I had. And I had to get out of doing those ventures and those visions because I had a family, 2 boys and stuff. And when I laid in bed that night and I overheard them talking, and I heard her tell my wife, she says, if his other kidney does not wake up tomorrow, he will be on dialysis for the rest of his life. I heard that. They thought I was asleep in the hospital bed, and I heard them talking in the doorway, and I heard that. And, I talked to my creator. I was like, is this what we're doing? Is this how we're going out? And his comforting voice to me was, I'm not done with you yet. There's still more work for you to do. You will teach the people what you know. To whom much is given, much will be required. And he says, I have given you all of this knowledge. I've given you 3-4 degrees. I've given you all this experience in the military and building a business and all this other stuff. I want you to go back and return it tenfold. Wake up the next day, the numbers are down. They said, son, you're good to go. You'll be out of here in 2 days.
Great.
So when you see all this stuff, when you see all the giving back, when you see all the classes and stuff that I've created for other people, when you see me teaching at the Alpha Academy, that's really what this is about right now.
Oh, wow. That is great. Now, it's just really interesting with these podcasts. I learn much about people, some of the people I've known for years, but when I ask questions like that, I get answers that are far beyond what I expected, but very moving.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So the other question I always ask, and we this is a half-hour podcast. I may have to have you come back for a second. So much because we haven't even touched on all those things that we talked about in the introduction. But just in general, with all the things that you have done and gone through, what is most rewarding for you?
I think what's most rewarding is I always get vision for the next step or the next phase and what people need, right? So being a stockbroker, an investment advisor for 20 some odd years, I'm always knowing, because I understand and can read the economic cycle. I understand the economy. I understand supply and demand. And I know that there's 11 types of risk, one of them being political risk. How will that shape this? And, so all these things come into play, but the average person doesn't even know, right, how their job can be affected, how they can show up on Monday and their job is no longer here. And so I created 2 training programs. And the reason why is because I was always helping people manage their portfolios. People write me a check for $1 million. I was doing all that, but it was the people in the middle, the people that were stuck, the people that are carrying the economy is the middle class. The people sitting right there, they are carrying they're not on the system and they're not ultra wealthy. So their taxes in the middle class is carrying the entire economy. And so those are the people that are stretched the most. They're raising a family. They got, 2.5 kids. I don't know. That's what the book says, 2.5 kids. But, they haven't. And so I created these 2 programs. One of them is the Side Hustle Retirement Plan.com. You can find it there. The Side Hustle Retirement Plan is now there's only 3 exits, right? And I don't want to get into that. That'll probably be another podcast. But one of the most prevalent exits that has come up for retirement has been people moving into a side hustle, transitioning to a side hustle out of a traditional job. And that's what I teach people how to do, right? And they don't have to be overwhelmed with the day-to-day burden of a full-time, hey, I want to run my business. Or the challenge was getting out of corporate America and going into retirement, then trying to bootstrap and start a business from scratch. What I wanted to do with the Side Hustle Retirement Plan was to transition people out into their own consulting or business firm. Now they're giving back the information that they learned. And the other thing is for younger people or people that are coming up still trying to figure it out, because we have this new generation, right? I don't need to go to college. I don't need to do this, whatever. I started the Midnight Money. It's called Midnight Money Moves. And I started the Money Never Sleeps Academy. And that's for people that it's a 12-month long academy, 1 hour a month, 12 hours, right? Because they're so busy. Huh?
What's the age group you work with?
So that's 18 and above.
Okay.
There is no cap. It's 18 and above. And it's called midnightmoneymoves.com. And what that does, it takes them through 12 months of understanding money from the ground up, how it works, how it can work for you, teaching them debt management, stay away from credit cards. There's debt and then there's credit card debt. right? And here's the difference in the two. There's a huge difference, right? Taking them through the fundamentals, teaching them about life insurance, teaching them about wills, trust, all that other stuff. That's the first 6 months. So we have a 6-hour session of that. The second 6 months is how to start a business, how to market it, how to put your business plan together, how to pitch your business, how to, and we supply them with everything. We show them how, we give them access to over $2,000 worth of software. We give them access to a business planner, they can plan their business. And I even have access, because I'm in investments business. There's even investors that look for the next Facebook or the next LinkedIn that may be there. I can do introductions and all that. This is a full meatball sandwich, that second one, because it's 12 classes. First 6 weeks is money, understanding how it works. The reason why I want to teach you that is because when you start making it, you'll know what to do with it. And most people will make it and they don't know what to do with it. Let me teach you what to do with it first. Yeah. So then having an undergrad in marketing, teaching grad school, teaching entrepreneurship, writing I was a course developer in entrepreneurship. I know how to do that. And so that's what I do. And so I'll teach them entrepreneurship, teach them the basics, understanding the marketing and all that. So those two I am most proud of. That's part of my my confession with my creator. Hey, you must teach the people, to whom much given, much is required. I put those two programs together. Now people have no excuse. And I do have a scholarship for it's a $2,500 program. My Money Never Sleeps program, but I have a scholarship for those who, once they come to that website, midnightmoneymoves.com, they're going to see the opportunity for a scholarship that's going to be 100% paid for everything. So you're going to get to work with $2,000 worth of software, and I only charge $2,500 for the program. So you're getting maybe a $5,000 program absolutely free. And so, yeah, that's where we're at, man.
Well, that's excellent. Jenny, the half hour just goes by so darn fast.
We're there already?
Yeah, we're already there. So if people want to contact you, already kind of given that information, but give it one more time about the website, maybe numbers, how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest way to get a hold of me right now, because these are my two pet projects, you're going to find me on Instagram. The Financial Evangelist is my Instagram tag. That'll be probably the easiest way. The Financial Evangelist, or you can find me on Facebook, The Financial Evangelist, or you can find me in one of those two programs, the Side Hustle Retirement Plan. That's for the people that says, hey, I want to move, transition in consulting and want to start my own business, but I don't want to start it overnight. That takes you through that path. And then for the people that says, hey, you know what, I want to go grassroots and get it understanding. That's middle class. I mean, not middle class. I'm talking about something else. That's midnightmoneymoves.com.
Excellent. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being my guest today. You've shared so much information that I know will be beneficial to people. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And again, listeners, this is WRM Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, The Edward Jones, the CEO and founder of Pro Destiny Coaching. To learn more about my coaching business, go to www.prodestinycoaching.com. Take the work relationship quiz and let's have a conversation. And remember, work relationships work for those who work on them. All righty, there we go.